This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Our guest today, and I'm sure a lot of people in Memphis already know, Mr. Ron Hurd, and he is with We All Be Group Incorporated. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Sister Bobbi. How you doing?
I'm just fine. Okay, so for people who don't know who you are, I have you as the Chief Executive Artivist. Now, they're probably... As we're talking about our topic today, people think about activists. Mm-hmm. But we know as an artivist, everybody might not understand that. So just introduce yourself and just explain what We All Be Group Incorporated is all about.
Well, I want to thank you once again for having me on the air, Sister Bobbi, to talk about my organization and our purpose. We All Be Group Incorporated, well, We All Be is an acronym for a world enriching, activating, liberating love, beautification experience.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I got the idea when I was in college. I was got into jazz my freshman year in college. It was this professor that I had some issues with. He was an Italian American professor, and I was a black student. It was like the makings of a Spike Lee joint, So we had this confusion because I would show up to the class late sometimes, but it was like on Mondays at 8:00 in the morning. You're a college student, you like to stay up late at night and do other stuff besides studying and extracurricular activities. But it was one day, because I was one of only two African American students in the class.
Okay.
It was one day he brought in a documentary about Sun Ra. Sun Ra was this jazz mystic. He was originally from Birmingham, Alabama. He was born in May 1914, or he made his debut on May 1914 in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, he said he was abducted by UFOs, and in order for him to be released, he had to teach the world how to love beautiful things.
Okay.
He was a music prodigy, and what's interesting about him is that he didn't claim he was from here. He's from Saturn.
Okay.
But he always said that space is the place. Okay. And the thing about it, you got to think about it, he's a black man from the South, and he's thinking about space is the place. And something like Einstein said something that was very profound. Einstein said that your imagination is more powerful than knowledge, to paraphrase Einstein.
Okay.
So be a black man in Jim Crow America and to think outside the box, he had to do that because he ended up starting one of the greatest jazz orchestras like knowing the art orchestras of all time. Matter of fact, he had people that believed so much in his vision. People like the great Johnny Gilmore, the saxophonist from Mississippi, who was John Coltrane's dream saxophonist, and Pat Patrick, who was the father of Deval Patrick, who was the governor of Massachusetts at one point. They left their families to be devoted to Sun Ra for 40 or 50 plus years of their lives.
Okay.
And so the thing about it is he was using his art to empower people. He was teaching black folks how to be liberated in this space. And I look at myself as an artivist, as an activist and an artist. There's a proud tradition in our community of artists using their platform to empower their people. You can look at the Harlem Renaissance, people like Langston Hughes, or Zora Neale Hurston, or Josephine Baker, or somebody who's forgotten about, like Sister Florence Mills. Like she was one of the greatest stage actors we ever produced, and singers, who was like an ambassador for black people. Or you could think about recently with Paul Robeson and Harry Belafonte, how they used their platform as a way to talk about the plights of their people, to empower their people. As a matter of fact, you can look at Malcolm X. Malcolm X, he used to wash dishes at this place in East Harlem called Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
Okay.
And guess who his partner was in crime as far as washing dishes?
Okay. That was
the Red Fox. So you got Red Fox, the world's funniest dishwasher, with Malcolm X. Well, Malcolm learned a lot about how to do his presentation as far as how to be a great orator by studying, Paul Robeson's voice on radio, on wax. And he was a jazz drummer. He used to play jazz drums. So he hanged out with people like Billie Holiday and all these type of people. Well, people don't understand, as far as black leadership goes, a lot of our great black leaders have background in entertainment and in the media.
Okay.
You can look at Louis Farrakhan, who's a classically trained violinist and calypso singer, or even somebody like Marcus Garvey started his own newspaper.
Yes. Okay, very good. So tell us what We All Be stands for again.
It's a world enriching, activating, liberating love beautification experience.
Okay, experience. Okay, that's great. Okay. When you were talking about the expressions, art expressions, I even thought about the talent that people have when you see railroad cars with I guess you call it graffiti.
Right, graffiti, yes.
And then even under the bridges and things like that. But these are expressions.
Yes, it is. Matter of fact, when you talked about that, I was thinking about this guy named Jean-Michel Basquiat from New York back in the 80s. He was a so-called graffiti artist. his artwork is worth now in the millions of dollars. Go for $30 million, $50 million in the art market. And he started out on the street as a graffiti artist. His handle was Samo. We were standing on the same old, you know what. And so he was a very profound brother. He was Haitian and Puerto Rican. He was black. And he actually passed away in, I want to say August 12th, 1988 at the age of 27. So he was real young, but his work still lives on to this day.
Right. You know, when I see things like that, I think now they would just channel that talent into something different. But then there are some buildings, however, that have murals. We call them, and that gives expressions about Black lives.
That's right. Because, you know, I'm going to tell y'all something that people don't realize. People got to think about this. I want people to really think about this. Wherever black bodies are gathered, it becomes valuable real estate. Whether it be up in Harlem with the Harlem Renaissance, or whether it be up in jails or prisons. Wherever black bodies or black lives are gathered, becomes valuable real estate for this system. So I want to think about it. You look at Georgetown. Georgetown today is known as an upscale neighborhood in D.C. But it wasn't long ago where it was really a black neighborhood. It was an all black neighborhood. It was reaching in the mid 20th century where the Congress started moving black folks out of the neighborhood. They started gentrifying Georgetown. Even look at the Harlem of today versus the Harlem of Malcolm's time, or even like 50, 40 years ago. Totally different Harlem. But the thing about it is, what made the real estate so valuable was the black bodies that invested in that real estate, in that property. You look at New York City, Central Park, we used to be known as the village, the African village where black folks gathered.
You're right.
And they kicked us out, but now it's valuable real estate. So think about that.
It's just like our entire country.
Exactly.
And you know, when blacks are being discredited, and even the new movement, Black Lives Matter.
Yes, ma'am.
We forget that were it not for black, as you say, bodies.
Black bodies.
This country would not be what it is.
Yeah, because we built Wall Street. We actually built the street Wall Street, and we was like some of the first commodities traded on Wall Street. And we still being traded on Wall Street based on private prisons because the 13th Amendment never abolished slavery. It allowed for prisons. If it abolished slavery, there'll be no prisons in America, especially one for profit.
Exactly. It's been headed that way, I know, since the 1990s.
That's right. And, you know, W.C. Henney wrote a song about it, Joe Turner's Blues. Joe Turner was a guy that came from Nashville that used to take black bodies in the middle of the night up to Nashville to the state penitentiary. So that was based on a real person.
Right. And was he not the one who wrote the book, How to Make Slaves?
Well, you talking about Willie Lynch. That was like a little bit before. But then you got to think about it, how white power, I always tell people talking about what black power is. Black power comes when black people unify or get solidified behind the issue. It don't make a difference what it is, because black power is about unity and solidarity. White power is about divide and conquer. This system is run on white power. It keeps us divided and conquered.
I'm glad you said that, because one of my questions to you was, what does black empowerment involve?
Like unity, get on the same page. Not all black people, because you look at the civil rights movement from 50 years ago. It wasn't many black folks involved in the actual civil rights movement 50 years ago. But I take one example. December 1st will mark the 60th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. That boycott lasts for 381 straight days. And the reason why it works, because you had black people on the same page. You had the grassroots activists. You had the black women, Joanne Robinson, that organized the women groups. And you also had the brothers with the President E.D. Nixon, president of the Pullman Porters Union. Blue collar, working class people organizing in Montgomery, the Montgomery Improvement Association. And we also had control of our media. Because Dr. King talked about it at a convention for DJs back in, I think, 1967 in Atlanta, Georgia, how important black radio was to organizing people in Montgomery, because the DJ will play songs or put out code words on the airways to let people know what's going on.
And music has always been used that way, like swing low, sweet cherub.
That's right. That's right. You know, we did, like we call Du Bois call them the sorrow songs, right? But it was actually giving us some type of direction and indication what we need to do, instruction.
So radio is important.
Very much so.
But the unity part is really, really important. And sometimes, I know that today we seem to be lacking.
Well, we don't control our media. You know, think about all our greatest leaders knew the importance of controlling your media. Ida B. Wells knew the importance of having a newspaper here that talked about the plight of black folks and to be politically empowered. That's why she was driven out the South, driven out Memphis, because she was controlling the information. Because like information is power. You know, you can have good power based on bad information. You know what I'm saying? You can have bad power based on I mean, good power based on good information.
Okay.
But information is power.
Okay.
So being able to control your information is so key and vital to what we're doing. Because all the most important institutions, whether it be Wall Street, whether it be the CIA or FBI, whether it be the Federal Reserve, everything, or even sports betting, everything's ran on information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, you just kind of put a tag, I guess, on Let's Talk About It.
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's what we try to do on this program, is to give out good information.
Yes, ma'am.
Because people need to be informed.
Yes, ma'am.
And we don't need, this isn't about, playing. We really want them to have the great information that they need. I'm going to take a break right here. When we come back, I want us to just continue this conversation. But you had mentioned the civil rights movement, which was another one of my notes. So let's move to that when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to join this conversation around the Let's Talk About It kitchen table this morning, please dial us in. The phone lines are open, 901-888-6805. And we'll be right back, right here on WLOK, still a family tradition. You peeped my agenda, didn't you?
Oh, I'm not talking too fast, bro. I'm trying to pace myself. I need to slow down. I'll slow down.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're excited.
Yeah, it's like I like sharing stuff. It's so important.
Yeah. And people like history too.
Yeah, it's like the Kennedy assassination was yesterday, 52 years ago.
Wow.
And so much information is already out there. We think we'll never find out what happened, but we do know what happened. It's out there already, but certain people ain't dead yet. But with certain people, you know who I'm talking about, are dead. They're gonna release more information, but the stuff is already out there.
Right. And you know what? Was it last week they were giving that information about 911?
Yeah.
That if they had just done what if the president had done what they had suggested the day before, it wouldn't have happened.
Well, they all know. It's always an inside job. It's like I always talk about. You look at Caesar, you look at Jesus. Who did what? It was an inside job. But even when King here in Memphis, the news here told the location, Dr. King's hotel and room number. So you can't tell me that they ain't. And then the guy who ran the police and fire department was an FBI guy. Yeah. And Jake Hoover didn't have no love for Dr. King. Right. It was a guy that came from Essex.
Sent, what's his name? The black police, when they told him he had an emergency.
Ed Reddick. I interviewed Ed Reddick. I know he passed away, but I talked to him for about an hour. I interviewed him. That information is important. I interviewed a black Secret Service man who was on President Kennedy's detail. He was the first black Secret Service man ever appointed to a president's detail, personally by Kennedy. And he told his superiors that the president's life was in danger. And when he tried to testify before the Warren Commission, they framed him and put him in jail for 5 years. And he's 80-something years old looking for a partner. But if you get a partner, it means it's an inside job. Yeah. They probably don't know a partner.
Okay. We have a caller. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying tuned. So let's talk about it here on WLOK. We have a caller. Caller, thank you for listening, and thank you for calling in this morning.
Yes, how are you this morning?
Just fine, and how are you?
And good morning to your guests.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Are you located here in Memphis?
Yes, sir. I'm in Memphis. Yes, sir.
Okay. I would like to get some information on you where I can contact. What I'm concerned about, you talking a whole lot about way back in the day about the civil rights worker and civil rights movement. I would like to get your information where I can get hold to you, because we need a whole lot needs to be done here in Memphis. It's disgrace. So I need the information from you, and so we can talk. And we need to get the whole lot of people in Memphis who are concerned citizens of Memphis, Tennessee.
All right.
It's going to the.
Okay. Thank you. We'll give out that information for you and others who need it, okay?
Yeah, I need that information. Please give me that information.
Okay, we will. All right. Can you give a contact number?
Yeah, you can reach me.
Thank you, caller.
I'm sorry. Y'all can reach me out at 901-299-4355. That's 901-299-4355. That's my direct cell phone number.
Now, as we talked about the civil rights movement, I believe you've done a piece on, it was a question, did the civil rights movement fail us? You know, we talk about Dr. King, and we laud him for his, accomplishment, and we mourn, his early demise, right, and all of that. And we still talk about the dream, but it was really more than a dream. Let's get this other caller.
Okay.
Caller, thank you for listening. You're on the air.
How you doing, Sister Thompson?
Hey, Alan.
And who's that gentleman that I heard a little bit about civil rights? How you doing? How you doing, sir?
I'm all right. How you doing today, sir?
Yeah, you know, when they play generation against generation, it's like make me kind of worried. You know why? Because the kids in the 60s did courageous things, too. They let dogs bite them. They had to deal with the water hose, the bull Connor and things. You ever thought about this generation of today is not evil like a lot of people portray them? Maybe the white folks like Donald Trump, you know, when George Bush, he's a war criminal in another country, I think Switzerland. Dick Cheney is a war criminal. Maybe the white folks have a sophisticated way of saying that we don't care nothing about dark people. So we ought to revamp and plan, you know, black generation against generation. Like my uncle said, a leopard never changes stripes. These people still even, they don't even want the Syrians to come over here during Thanksgiving and we eat their turkeys. Man, I feel like an Indian today.
Oh,
the Indians,
not an
their
Indian.
country.
You mean a Native American?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Thompson, right. I have a little Indian in me, I can say that. That's why I said that. They didn't want the Indians. They don't want black folks. You remember Katrina, George Bush? Look at Donald Trump. He just is evil. He reminds me of Bull Connor and those people like George Wallace down in Alabama to treat people from other countries like this. Man, I hope gas don't go up to $5 a gallon because those people in Syria,
Okay, Alan.
they control the oil supply.
Okay, you got a long agenda there. Okay, thank you, Alan. We're going to comment on something you said.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I want to address the generational divide. Like I said earlier, Black Power is about unity and solidarity. You can't have a successful revolution or social justice movement without intergenerational dialogue and collaboration. Like, case in example with Dr. King. Dr. King was a peer of A. Philip Randolph and Adam Clayton Powell Jr., Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr. These guys were old enough to be his father, but they respect him as a peer. You know, same thing. You look at the quote unquote founding fathers with John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. They were young enough to be Benjamin Franklin's sons, but they all were respected as peers. Because the thing about it is, in order for us to overcome what we have been going through, it's going to take a team effort. You know, a collaborative effort. It's going to take a village. And the thing about it is, you look at, for example, when Muhammad Ali was in his prime and he was outspoken in the 60s, they tried to use Joe Louis to come at Muhammad Ali. But at the end of the day, you know, Muhammad Ali had a lot of respect for Joe Louis. So the same thing they used Jackie Robinson to come at Paul Robeson, and Paul Robeson refused to take the bait. And Jackie Robinson figured out later on what they was doing, but by that time it was too late. You know, but you know, it is what it is. But the problem, I think, a lot of things is the fact that it's such a instant gratification society. Like, I've been to Ferguson and West Baltimore and places. I've been to Charleston and covered the church shooting as well as Walter Scott. And the thing about it is, I applaud the young people what they're doing. But the thing about it is, it's like they're doing it in a vacuum.
Okay.
Like, they're making some of the same mistake that some of our elders made 50, 60 years ago, because they're not having a dialogue with some of the brothers and sisters from 50, 60 years ago who did the work.
Okay.
Because, you know, you remember SNCC, and like, I got a, you know, Marion Barry's autobiography. They had a saying in SNCC that trust no one above the age of 30.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's what they said 50 years ago. But then they became elders themselves, and you got all this knowledge around you. Like in the city of Memphis, you got so many elders and people that have done incredible things, but nobody's really seeking them as a resource because they don't know. Because it's not taught in schools.
Right, exactly. And you know, we've said that before too, that needs to be broader up, better communication, more effective communication between our seniors and our children. And that's how the children are going to learn, because that's even scripture where, you know, I can't tell you exactly where it is, but God told people to, you know, write it on the posts, you know, the doorposts, so that your children will know. Yes, ma'am. And we're supposed to hand that information down. But, you know, things change. Generations are different. We don't want to hear that.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly.
Let's get this caller. Thank you for listening. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bobbi. Tell me your guest name, because I am still impressed. I heard him when he came on, but I missed the introduction.
His name is Ron Hurd, Mr. Ron Hurd.
How you doing?
Hurd.
Yes, ma'am.
Ron Hurd, I have enjoyed this morning so much, Mr. Hurd. My name is Linda Backus. They call me the Mapco lady.
Yes, ma'am.
But, you know, when you was talking about the cities and stuff, it reminds me a lot of Memphis. Because, you know, once upon a time, Memphis, the whites was in the city limits, basically, and the blacks was out in the fields or in the rural area, I'll say. Now, they've torn down most of the housing developments, redid them up to these real upscale units, and most of the people, they gave them Section 8 vouchers and sent them out in what was considered the rural area, the county you know, like Parkway Village and Hickory Hill and all of those areas with those Section 8 vouchers, you know, and they're pretty much the doctors and the lawyers and stuff is what's really staying down in like University Place and Legends Park and what used to be Hurt Village. So it's probably, it has kind of, to me, reversed the situation. But I like what you said, but I think where we failed at, too many of us got our affirmative action. We moved up the ladder in these facilities and in these companies and stuff, but we forgot to reach back and grab somebody else.
Okay.
And if we had our community centers to maybe show some film on the movement and so, since it's not being did in school, maybe we could bring it to the neighborhood. A lot of times people say the churches, everybody ain't coming up in the church, but some of the regular people go to the community centers and play basketball and stuff. So we need to maybe try to educate our children at the community centers rather than in the churches because everybody's not coming. And with that note, I'll leave. This is a great show, Bob, and I want to hear some more. So y'all have a super great day and happy holidays.
Okay.
Thank you, Sister Malcolm.
All right. And for my caller who hung up, please dial us back in at 901-888-6805. You have a comment.
Oh yeah, she made some great points because I recently, not too long ago, I went down to Dexter Avenue Church down in Montgomery with Dr. King.
Okay.
First came to Montgomery. That was the church that started the Montgomery bus boycott stuff, the movement. And talking to the sister who was a tour guide down there, she said, so I said, like, you know, the black church, like, they're doing a poor job in recruiting young folks, retaining young people.
Okay.
Because back in the day, you had the black church, you had the reverends leading the movement, but you had a lot of young people involved.
Right. Dr. King was young.
Dr. King, like, he was in his 20s, right? But she said, like, the youngest people that got down that church right now, Dexter Avenue, where Dr. King preached at 60 years ago, they're probably in their 70s.
Oh, wow.
So the church, you know, and it's funny because all these attacks on the church recently, look at Charleston, look at Sandra Brand, she was pulled over on church grounds down there outside of Prairie View A&M. You look at the fact that even in Memphis, Derry Stewart was killed on church grounds. I mean, he was taken from a traffic stop up to church grounds to be killed, which is crazy.
Okay.
So all this stuff going on, even a couple of churches been burnt over the summer and stuff. All this stuff is happening against the church, and really there's no response. So I'm kind of worried about that. I'm kind of troubled by that.
Okay, so when you said that there's no response, you mean from the general public? Because what I think I remember that when, like the example of the churches burned, the congregations just say we'll build again.
Right.
You know, but what does the community do? Did the community come, you know?
Well, I don't know. We have a community actually, because if you don't control your institution, you don't have no community. You have a neighborhood.
Okay.
You don't control your institutions. Like Baba Dick Gregory told me all the time. He tell people all the time, in your communities, you control your institutions. I remember a couple of years ago, I went up to New York. I went to Williamsburg, where a bunch of Hasidic Jews live. You know, those are the people that wear their hats and they got the curly locks and stuff. And you go on every block. The tour guide was telling us that a lot of these people don't go to quote unquote traditional secular schools, but on every block, they had an academy with a yellow school bus. They control these academies. They control their schools. They control their economics. They control the culture. They control the flow of the money in their community. And that the dollar get recycled many times before it goes out. I mean, I got a Jewish friend. She told me, Ron, she lives in Miami, and she's a young woman. She's not an older Jewish person, but she's a young woman. She said, Ron, I thank God every day for my Jewish lawyer, my Jewish dentist, my Jewish car salesman, because in their religion, it teaches do for self and invest in your community before you invest in anybody else's first. Okay. You invest in your people. And black people, we don't know their lesson, because your religion, if you look at, even the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Nation of Islam at their height, he was talking about do for self. That what made it so powerful. We do for ourselves. We take care of our own. And now, right now, in this generation, it's a self-pronoun generation. One man for themselves. Everybody's being selfish. Nobody wants to give or step out their comfort zone.
Wow, and that really brings us to something else I had wanted us to talk about. When you mentioned about the flow of the dollar, I guess we've been saying that in the black community, it doesn't even flow one time.
Right, barely.
Barely, because we don't support each other. We don't support, and that brings us to that suggestion of the Christmas boycott and the Black Friday. Yeah. So what is we have a minute or so before I have to take a break, but again, if anyone would like to call in, the number is 901-888-6805. What is it? What can we do to get people to support? You know, we still here. Right. I can't shop black. I can't. it's a customer service. You know, it's always an excuse not to support black businesses.
Right.
So how do we fix that?
I guess one thing we need to start supporting black media, so we get a different image of black folks out there. Because the problem, we got a bad perception of who we are. We trust it. We see ourselves through our enemies' eyes. You know, you think about it, this city is chocolate city, basically. It ain't DC no more. It ain't New Orleans. It's Memphis. We're the real chocolate city #1. But the thing about it is, where do people get most of their news from?
Okay.
Who control that media?
Okay.
Because one of the things Malcolm X told us 50 years ago, the most powerful force on earth is the media, because they control the minds of the masses.
Exactly.
They influence how people see themselves or view themselves.
Okay.
And that's the issue, our poor self-image based on we don't control our media.
So when we look at television,
Tell our vision.
tell our vision,
Tell our
and
lies.
we see the same incident being repeated. In 1 hour, you'll hear the same thing at least 4 times, and that's either the teen mobs, the coca mobs, it's people going to jail, whatever the offense was, and it permeates our minds.
I agree, because even look at the Darius Stewart case, even the black and white people, they keep on talking about the fact that this guy was a quote-unquote child molester, but he never had his day in court. And I talked to Judge Joe Brown after one of the recent rallies at 201 Popular. He said there was no warrant for the guy's arrest. That it was a warrant made up 4 days after he was dead.
Oh, wow.
And I got that out there. You know, I got that through my media platform, because I know the value of us having our own media apparatus, getting our own story out there.
Okay. Calling on the air.
Good morning. How you all doing?
Oh, good morning.
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad. I was just listening to the conversation. You know, you're talking about support the black business. You know, and my comment on that is, I think a lot of times, like you said about the young people, I think really our young people need prayer these days. They really do. All of us need prayer, but I think they need it, more, because it's like they've got away from, the love of God. And I think when we pray for people, the Bible says take everything to God in prayer. And I think all the things that He's ordaining, to help the people heal the ministry. When we pray and give it back to God, I think He would take hearts and minds to, do things. Even though we got to teach them and lead and guide them,
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. You all have a happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, you too, please.
Thanks.
And she has a point when we pray, but I thought about it. She was talking, and then she also said to teach and to lead and guide. We have to give them information.
Exactly.
And we can't, as you said, we all say that we can't let the media control their minds. We have to give them the effective information.
That's right.
Things that will make them realize who they are, what they can do, what their talents are, and what they can do with those talents, rather than seeing over and over all the negative aspects and thinking that, and that's what slavery did.
Exactly.
That's what slavery did.
And I'm glad you touched upon that point. I think it's so important to know who we're dealing with and what entity that we're dealing with. Because yesterday was the 52nd anniversary of the killing of President Kennedy. And now we know better 50 years later that it was more than one person involved in that.
Exactly.
Say that with Dr. King. And the reason why I want to bring that up, because we had a brother over this weekend, just a very distinguished brother from Chicago, I think Reverend Sampson at the SCLC.
Okay.
He was one of only 3 ministers actually ordained by Dr. King. And he said that Dr. King called a meeting in 1966 of his top brass of the SCLC to let them know that a FBI agent from California, a black agent, told him that he will be assassinated by the U.S. government. Dr. King knew this information in 1966. And also, when he was looking at the president's funeral procession up in D.C., JFK, he told Walter Funtroy, who was the secretary of the SCLC at the time, he said, if they could do that to a president, I won't make it to 40. And they got Dr. King at 39.
At 39. Yeah.
Right. So he knew what he was up against towards the end. And so I don't think a lot of us understand or understand what we're up against now.
Right.
That when people say stuff like black on black crime, how can it be black on black crime where people normally kill where they live? You rob where you live. You prey on the people that you know. Because who's doing the killing in China of Chinese people?
Yes.
And Italy, you see, so that's always an excuse used to not confront this system.
Okay. Caller, thank you for listening. You're on the air.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, sweetie.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm blessed, and I couldn't do it at Mother Island. My dad WLOK and all this business.
Okay.
And what the difference in is like, time difference. And we do have to pray for one another, whether we're young or old or whatever. And we're learning down here in this world. And I'm so glad God is along helping God with us. And we're going to make it because we love Jesus and we love one another. And it's our Jesus know you something else.
Okay, sweetheart. Good to hear from you.
All right, so y'all be blessed, and we're going to learn to pray and wait on the Lord.
All right, then.
And we'll live long like Mother Ireland.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sweetheart, and like you as well. Okay.
We'll be your sister, Mother Ireland.
All right.
And be blessed.
Okay. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you, darling.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. We need to take a break right here, Ron. Ladies and gentlemen, we won't leave the kitchen, I promise. Now, you may get up from the table and refresh your whatever, green tea, decaf, whatever, water, but please stay in the house, and we'll be right back, right here at WLOK, still a family tradition.
Did you know that you, as your child's first teacher, is the most important teacher?
It's fascinating.
She's 70. I think she's 78 or 79.
Oh, wow.
And she's talking about Mother Ivory, who is 96.
Oh, wow.
And she calls in almost every day.
That's good. Well, she's it's good. It's good to have that type of interaction. That's a blessing.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask you about the boycotts.
Okay.
Controlling our money and the boycotts.
There's a lot of stuff happening around. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
If you don't cooperate, if you don't wait your turn, we won't either. To learn other ways to help your child be successful.
I don't think Clarksdale never recovered from the boycott they did 50 years ago. In Clarksdale, Mississippi, they had a boycott.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And I don't think they ever recovered from that.
Okay. Because my concern was if when we're talking about boycotting, like, you know, the thing on the
Of course, you got to be, yeah.
But what about what's going to happen then with the African Americans or the black people who work in these chain industry?
That's a good question. Because, you know, they doing the fight for 15.
Yeah.
So that's big pop. You know, with the irony is, like I told them guys, y'all supposed to be getting $25 an hour.
Okay.
You fighting for 15, but you supposed to get 25.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in, the number is 901-888-6805. That's our number if you want to join the conversation today, and we'll be very happy to take your call. We were talking about, you know, the flow of money in the black community, and also thinking about the recommendation from the recent march in Washington, and even before, Minister Farrakhan was here in Memphis.
That's right.
Recommended that we boycott Christmas, and you know, Black Friday is coming up. Is it this week?
Yes, after Thanksgiving. The day after Thanksgiving.
Where they say they lower the prices.
Right. Very enticing.
Raise them up.
That's right.
And then bring them back down a little bit.
It's like going to casino. Right?
Yeah.
Just gambling.
Okay. So, what happens if black people did boycott these holidays? You know, because it's really, we always complain that Christmas has become so commercialized and things like that. But I was thinking specifically about black people who work in these large stores. What happens with them if we boycott these big stores and shop small, shop in our neighborhoods? You know, how does that affect them?
It's fascinating dealing with black people in this system because we're the largest consumers in the system. And you look at TV. TV was created to sell things. And they always make you feel like you're inadequate. You know, you got to get this or you'll never be this or that. And black folks, we got such low self-esteem as a people because we buy the most stuff out of anybody. So that means we got a lot of low self-esteem among our people. And we should have some high self-esteem. And the thing about it is, even the people that work at some of these stores we're not going to name, a lot of them can barely get by on what they earn from the stores anyway. They're on EBT cards. They got welfare still.
Exactly.
So, and we're subsidizing these corporations. They won't pay their workers. So you got like a corporate superstructure welfare, like corporate welfare on steroids in this country.
And that's not new either, because I can remember even some of the movie stars who owned land and they were paid by the government not to farm.
Exactly.
Not to raise food on the land. Okay, so they've been on welfare
Right.
For generations.
Look at Donald Trump. His father got through, built that real estate empire by getting money from the government during the Great Depression. That's how he built that fortune. That's how Donald Trump was able to inherit a $500 million fortune because his father got all these deals from the government through corporate welfare.
Okay.
Those during the Depression.
Okay.
So I guess he was too big to fail back then, And the thing about it is, you start thinking about a lot of these things. You got 3 billion people in the world who are living on $2.50 a day. 3 billion people out of 7 billion people. 3 billion people in the world living on $2.50 a day.
Let's get this call. Thank you for listening and for calling in. You're on the air.
Hi, Bobby. How you doing?
Just fine, and you?
Okay, I'm fine. How you doing, Mr. Hurd?
I'm doing fine, sir. How you doing?
Hey, I like your conversation. It's very important. Now, the reason why when you're talking about boycott, we don't have anything to be a boycott. Everything is in South Haven, out east. So, what are we going to do about black business?
Okay.
Macy's gone. Everything. We need to talk about that. We don't have anything in White Haven, you call it, that we can go shop. It's a crying shame.
Okay. All right. Thank you, caller.
All right.
And we complained about that. We've been complaining about that for years. You have to drive past White Haven to go to a decent restaurant, or so-called decent restaurant.
Right.
So you can stay home and eat soup, right?
Sometimes best to eat. Sometimes best to eat homemade. Considering what's going on right now with these restaurants, like the Chipotle situation is kind of terrible.
Yeah.
It's scary. But the thing about it is, Dr. King told us the answer in his last speech in Mesa Temple.
Okay.
In Memphis, he said, don't go somewhere where you can't afford to buy for the hamburger. You can sit in a restaurant, can't afford to pay for the hamburger. There's a problem. If you buying bread or a drink from a place and they won't hire you, then that's a problem. Stop shopping when people don't respect you. Have some self-respect, and also invest in black-owned businesses that exist. Insurance companies, like you talking about the Tri-State Bank. Like the Tri-State Bank was so powerful during the movement because when the black activists in Mississippi were getting active, the White Citizen Council and the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission started shutting down their assets to credit, their access to credit. So they had to depend on the Tri-State Bank here to give them credit. So the Tri-State Bank was very pivotal in the civil rights movement.
And they did that up in Tennessee, too, in the 60s.
Exactly. And then the Montgomery bus boycott, it was the black businesses that made that boycott successful. I said black radio, black business owners, they was able to take care of their own. Right. Like Magic Johnson was here a couple of years ago. When he received the Freedom Awards, he spoke at the temple before he received it, and he said, "Sure, we got more black millionaires now than we had in 1960, but we had more black businesses.
Okay,
we was able to employ more people back then. Okay, so that's a difference.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, and we always are trying to encourage people to, I guess what we said, do the right thing.
Yeah.
And instead of just complaining all the time and still catering to the same behaviors.
That's right.
Okay, we won't ever move beyond where we are if we keep doing the same thing. What's about history?
Yeah, you're doing repeated, or it happens in cycles. But you think about it, even this month marks the 100th anniversary of the death of Booker T. Washington. Now, that's really, people don't understand what really happened with that. Some people think he was poisoned or killed. Okay. Because the last, October 18th, 1915, Booker T. Washington penned an essay in the New York Age, which was a black newspaper back in the day. T. Thomas Fortune was one of his supporters. And he criticized the U.S. intervention in Haiti. Okay. He thought it was wrong for them to intervene. Okay. What people don't understand about Booker T. Washington was the mentor to Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey used to write to Booker T. Washington for information on how to start his own self-help organization. And his plan when he came to America was to meet up with Booker T. Washington. But, after he came, Booker T. Washington was already dead. But Booker T. Washington made a lot of powerful enemies because he was telling black folks we got to do for self. He started a National Negro Business League in 1900. And some people feel like the NAACP was created in opposition to Booker T. Washington. So he made a lot of powerful enemies. So really, there's, people don't really know how he actually died, but some people think it was foul play because the person that replaced Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee was Robert Moulton. Robert Moulton was a U.S. Army spy. Okay. And his spy master was Spingarn. Okay. From the NAACP. Now, the reason why we know about this because the L.A. Times, I'm not saying it's not from me. The L.A. Times did some research. I think a guy from the Commercial Appeal actually researched it, and it got published in the L.A. Times. We found out that Dr. King's family was spied on for 3 generations, started with his maternal grandfather. Okay. So you had spies at Morehouse looking at Dr. King and trying to figure out who he is. Right. How come our enemy know who we are before we know who we are?
and they were spying on him to look at his brilliance. They
Right.
said, yeah, he was such a brilliant person.
Right.
They probably did, or had already deducted that he's going to do something great.
Well, even like 50 years ago, I mean, this is the thing, this is so important. History is a weapon, because we talk about what happened in Paris just recently.
Okay.
50 years ago, when Malcolm X tried to go into France, they refused him. They said, you can't come in here, because they were warned by some entity that Malcolm will be assassinated soon. So he was not allowed to go into France. And so he had to get out of England and come back to America. And then next thing you know, he's dead up in Harlem. But people don't understand that you can look this up. Elijah Muhammad's his secretary, his national secretary was John Ali. John Ali was an FBI informant.
Okay.
So John Ali was responsible for the correspondence between Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad.
Okay.
So you can look all this up. Louis Lomax, the great journalist who he lost in the late 60s, he discovered that fact about John Ali. Matter of fact, Malcolm X's chief bodyguard was Eugene Roberts. He was an undercover NYPD and also one of the founding members of the Black Panther Party up in New York. And he was the guy that put Afeni Shakur and the Panther 21 in jail. Afeni Shakur was Tupac Shakur's mom.
Okay.
So he's the one. So you think about the infiltration. You think about in Chicago, what happened to Fred Hampton on December 4th, 1969. His key bodyguard, his head bodyguard, William O'Neill, was an FBI informant. And it's been proven he used the information to give to his handler in the FBI. He used the Chicago Police Department to raid his apartment and kill him in cold blood at the age of 21. And they were watching Fred Hampton when he was 14 or 15 years old in Maywood, Illinois. So how come our enemies know who we are before we know who we are?
It's that self-value or lack of self-value and self-esteem.
Yeah, lack of knowledge of self, like where you get your information about who you are from.
Okay.
You know, what they tend to focus on. They tend to sensationalize certain things.
Right.
They tend to character assassinate.
Look a certain way, you're supposed to do a certain
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
All right. We need to take a break, our last break. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in and join the conversation, you know the number is 901-888-6805. The phone lines are open and I'm ready to answer your call. So please dial us in at WLOK, still a family tradition. Okay. I want to talk about the disparities.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
That's a good segue to it.
I'm sorry, I was jumping all over the place. Okay.
Can you hold for me? Okay, thank you.
But that Booker T. Watch thing is deep. There's so many people around him that died mysteriously in crazy ways. I mean, like his wife, he had 3 wives. His first 2 wives died within 5 years of each other. And his second wife outlived him by 10 years.
Oh.
Yeah. She died at 25. But the thing about it is the Tuskegee experiment might not would have happened at Tuskegee if he was alive. That's why they had to get rid of him. One of the reasons why they get rid of him. He really wanted to bring Marcus Garvey to Tuskegee as well, too. So when you look at all this stuff, even like the FBI was built on getting rid of Marcus Garvey. That's how J. Edgar Hoover got his powers, by getting rid of Marcus Garvey. He hired the first black FBI agent, Agent 800. That's his code name.
It's just so much. But a lot of people don't want to hear it.
I know, it's unfortunate. But I really know the scary stuff than not to know.
Exactly.
Because then you got kids. If you care about your grandkids and your kids, why we want them to go through the same stuff we went through and being blind? Exactly. I really know the truth, even though it might be, oh my God, you know. Yeah. But I was scared at one point like that too. I can understand. You get mad.
But you know what? I'm a Christian. I believe in prayer.
Yes, ma'am.
But Jesus prayed, but then he did something.
He got in them temples, knocked them tables over. He had some action. He was an action hero.
Okay, we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us right here at WLOK, still a family tradition. We have a caller. Thank you for your patience. You're on the air.
Yes, I have a question. Well, boycotting Christmas this case, why not just boycott all your days? The 4th of July, you're spending grand theft money, those holidays, Valentine's Day to call. Why not just boycott every day?
I guess the emphasis was on Christmas because it was the next holiday coming up when people go deeply in debt.
That, but I mean, if you're going to boycott for power, you have to boycott every day to celebrate.
Okay.
You take the 4th of July, you're buying food, ribs, new clothes for the 4th. So we've been boycotting in March for 100 years and nothing has changed.
All right.
I just don't agree with that boycott deal with this guy talking about. Because some people live for Christmas and they enjoy it. So they're going to do what they're going to do. Well, basically, he's just talking, really, because people who celebrate Christmas are going to do what they're going to do.
Okay. Thank you, caller. Okay.
Well, the reason why people say boycott Christmas is because most of the spending in the whole year, as far as consumerism, is done between Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's how a lot of these corporations make their money at this time of the year. And it's not about boycotting the spirit of Christmas. Like I like getting together with family members and food for thought and sharing stuff with people I haven't seen in a while. It's not about boycotting family. It's about boycotting capitalism more so that exploits people and does not respect black humanity.
And the Black Friday is called black because that's when the corporations get in the black, get out of the red.
That's right.
Their finances. It's not. It has no reflection on black people buying on Black Friday.
Well, we use black bodies.
Yeah,
you about Wall Street. Wall Street was built by slaves, and slaves were some of the first commodities. Exactly. And we're still being traded on Wall Street on the auction block.
Exactly. Okay. As we're talking about money, I pulled an article from the Tri-State Defender that was dated June 2014, where a group of business leaders were interested in increasing the minority business participation within the public and private sectors here in Memphis. And they were talking about the disproportionate number of contracts awarded to minority women businesses over the last 20 years. And what they wanted to aim was to increase the number of minority and women business contracts in Memphis and Shelby County over the next 5 years. So this is 2014. Let's get this call and then I'll come back to that. Thank you for listening. You're on the air.
Brother Ron, have you written a book? Because I would love to read it. And let me say something. I tried to get an account. Do you realize that most of those bad black people, our credit is not good enough to get a Tri-State Bank? And I think that's a problem. So we have no other choice but to go to First Tennessee and Regis and the Bank of America. Because we can't even put our money in the black bank because of us being high credit risk. And you should write a book because we could really, this is what I was telling our Gilliam the other week. We need this very bad. And even us older people, we need it. We can't teach our children if we don't know. Okay, and when they talk about minority business people, what about the regular people? I mean, if the minority business folks are going to get the money and then they're going to move out of the city, going to move somewhere else with the money after they make it off of, then they defeat the purpose. That's the very reason I don't have a problem with this mayor's race, what happened. I hope we're going to see a change for the better of black people in this city because I think we have elected so many black people that have forgotten from where they came that they couldn't help the folks that they left behind.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Thanks, Linda.
Yes, thank you, sister.
Calling you on the air.
Okay. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want to tell you that you can hear the same thing 5 times within 15 minutes and everything, and you're just constantly repeating. But that's brainwashing. The other thing is that we can boycott it all over this city and Mississippi and wherever else we go shop. We don't have to have the stores here like Hazel. That's what's wrong. We follow the company wherever they are. Just say I'm not talking. We gonna get better this. I get the better this if I go out east. If I go to this store, I get the better this. I get the better this. You see, we need to get our brain together and realize that it's all the same thing. Wherever you get, so we just got a different touch.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the point. Yeah. Some people do think that if they go out east to shop, that it's going to be a better quality, or even maybe they've been advertising what they think is a better price, but then you got to spend gas money going out there, right?
Well, they got us buying bottled water too. If you talk to people 50 years ago, they probably saying, y'all buying bottled water.
Yeah.
Water supposed to be free.
Yeah.
But people buy, I mean, it's amazing how the mind works.
Yeah.
How they can manipulate the mind and get us to do things we thought we'd never do. That's why it's so important to be a critical thinker sometimes. Sometimes not to be the one that always go with the crowd, not to be the one who's a part of the quote unquote group think. It's important to think different sometimes.
Right. And we have just a few more minutes, and I did want to talk about, as we're talking about economics, the contracts that are awarded.
Right.
Are we making any progress there?
I think the problem with us is like white supremacy is good at using code words. Like the word minority. We're not the minority, we're the majority.
Yes.
And the minorities are winning. I'm talking about the white business owners in Memphis. They are the minorities and they're getting all the contracts. So they win it. So I think it's like not understanding how the system works. because we had a black mayor, quote unquote, since 91. That means we didn't have no black leadership, because really black folks should be empowered in this city. Even you look at, for example, somebody like former Memphis Marion Barry. I go to DC to this day. Black and white folks love Marion Barry, simply for the reason that, you know, when they were kids, he made sure that all kids they want a job had a job in the summer. He had a program called the Pride Program. They talking about 60,000 inmates coming home from prison. He had a job where black men were able to make something themselves, even coming out of prison. That Pride Program put them to work, helped them to support their own black-owned businesses and everything. If you look at what Maynard Jackson did in Atlanta, that's another example. He made sure that the airport down there had minority subcontractors. So he made a lot of black folks wealthy in Atlanta. Same thing what Marion Barry did in DC.
Right. And the title of it is A Mayor for Life.
That's right. It's autobiography.
And you know what? Sometimes the negative things, the one incident that somebody made a mistake will be remembered more than what the good things that they do.
But you know the thing about that is, I talked to Dick Gregory, and he talked about how Dick Gregory helped him after that. That was a hit. They were trying to kill Marion Barry that night, because he never used that drug that night. He was set up. Even the woman admitted that he was set up.
Right.
They were trying to kill Marion Barry, because soon he got caught. The FBI sent stuff out to the embassies throughout the world trying to discredit Marion Barry.
Right. And then what happened? He ended up right back in.
Yeah, because you know what? He served the people. He was a real public servant.
Yes.
And people knew that.
Yes. Caller, you on the air.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
All right.
All right, sir. How you doing?
Good. I hope y'all bring this young man back at least twice a year. A lot of times, people got to keep on emphasizing the message of what you're trying to relate. And then it takes us a while sometimes to get it. The mayor here that was in office, that's still in office, that when the money came to the city, that money wasn't put where it was supposed to go. We still have to talk about how things work and how it goes. And then maybe we'll get a time to soak in what's going on and what we need to do with our money or where we should go.
Okay.
When you take that money out of the neighborhood, it's rough. When you take that money 20 miles out of the neighborhood, it's getting rougher. It don't have a chance to come back here.
Okay. Thank you, caller.
It's got to be feeding up.
All right. Okay, I'm going to try to get one more call in before we go off the air. Thank you, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, real quick. Jesus had to deal with Judas. So put that out there, too. Jesus had to deal with Judas.
Okay.
Informant.
Thank you, Alan. All right. Okay, now, got people calling in twice.
Right.
But anyway, you're very, very true about that. And even with Darius Stewart, let's go back to that real quickly. Once he was killed, in other black or young black men who were killed, they want to dredge up something bad about them to make the public think that he was dispensable. Right. Because he had smoked some marijuana, he's dispensable.
That's right.
Trayvon Martin.
That's right.
And it just goes on down and down the line. I've got to get off the air. Caller, let me apologize. I really don't have time to take your call. But if you'll either hang on or call back when I get off the air, I will be glad to talk to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Ron Hurd. And as the gentleman, the caller said, to have you back at least twice a year. We've had him on Rainbow Push before. Yeah. And I thought that when I heard him then, I said, this is something that needs to be done in the daytime. So just looking at our schedule and looking at what we were doing, I finally brought him to you this morning. And I just want to say thank you. Great information.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much for taking your time. Ladies and gentlemen, Cleveland's coming up next. You know that. And then at 7 o'clock, you'll have your nighttime girl. And that's Delta Fireball, Stella Award winner, Fleming. And all of that is happening right here on WLOK. Still a family tradition. And if God is as good to me in the morning as he has been to me every day of my life, I plan to be around the kitchen table with you tomorrow morning on Health Tuesday. So just be blessed and take care. Right here at WLOK, still a family tradition.